Hi, Erin.
Hey, Keri.
I'm so excited to chat with you today. Welcome to For the Pro, the series where I'm going to be speaking to amazing wellness business leaders about what's working and what's not working in their businesses. Today, well, first let me introduce you to everyone. Erin Roos is marketing director for Life's Abundance. And today we're going to talk about empathy and compassion in the workplace. Empathy is, as Erin will tell us, a core pillar of Life's Abundance. So I thought it would be a good topic to talk about with Erin today, especially given just where we are in the world right now and people needing empathy and compassion, and leaders also feeling stressed, though, to continue to keep their businesses afloat. Some people can be more empathetic and compassionate leaders, and other people can go another direction. So I thought, knowing that empathy was a core, what do you call it, a core principle, or what do you call
Core
it?
value.
A core value of,
Mhm.
okay. So a core value of Life's Abundance. I thought it would be a great topic to discuss with Erin, who I've had the pleasure of working with. So Erin, how are you today?
I'm really fantastic, and I'm excited to talk about this too because it's so important, Keri, and I appreciate you bringing empathy and compassion into workplace conversations.
Awesome. So let's talk about, since the well, do you want to actually, why don't you tell people a little bit what you do at Life's Abundance and what Life's Abundance about, so they have a good sort of frame of reference of where you're coming from?
Sure. Okay. Well, you know how as a consumer, it can be hard to know which product is really good for you or which ingredient is really better or which brand really truly has a better safety track record, because these are things that we look for. They're important, but it's sometimes hard to tell. Well, we're the brand that solves that problem in the product categories that we offer. And right now that's nutritional supplements, personal care products, and a whole line of consumable pet products for cats and dogs. And that's what we do.
Amazing. And putting it out there, full transparency, I have worked with Life's Abundance on their supplement products. So that is how I know Erin, but that's not really what we're talking about today. Again, we are talking about empathy and compassion and leadership in the workplace. But yeah, that is how I know the wonderful Erin. So, all right. So since the pandemic began, how has Life's Abundance shifted, if at all?
Oh, if at all. No, you know what, Carrie? I think that really is a foregone conclusion, probably for most people that we talk to, right? I mean, everything's changed. You have to think about it, everything a little bit differently. And if we're talking about empathy, I will say that a steering light for us has been empathy for one another, for customers. So if you think about, we typically have a brick and mortar office. We
Mhm.
are not a remote workforce traditionally. So starting with sending everybody home, it's not like you just say, okay, everybody go work from home. There's a tremendous amount of support that went into that, not just the technical side, but the emotional side. It was funny, Carrie. I just was talking to some coworkers the other day, thinking back to March when we went home. And for some reason, in everybody's mind at that time, it was like, oh, yeah, sure, we're going home for just a couple weeks.
Right, right.
Right. So
Well, that's
not
what I thought
only
about with school, with my kids with school. I remember thinking, oh, they'll be back in school. And then, yeah.
yes, so it's a little bit of a stunner when the time goes on. So to continue supporting people with empathy and checking in, and then missing all the activities, it's gotten real personal, real fast in the workplace. And I think that's a good thing. And we went into it at Life's Abundance. We're a really tight knit team, but I think this has brought us even closer together because we are having personal conversations that maybe we wouldn't have before. Um, and of course, in terms of how it shifted, we had to then, after supporting one another through this transition, revisit what we're doing for customers, ask them or look at customers, what's their new reality and how can we help support that and meet them where they are.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that, I always think about empathy and compassion, right? And compassion being the part where, you really are helping to better people's lives. And I think of, I know you at Life's Abundance, you're all empathetic too, but I think of it also as being really compassionate leaders and a compassionate company, in the sense that you also are really trying to better people's lives, not just your customers, but your employees. And I know, again, from working with you as a company, I know that you take a lot of pride in that and really want to take care of your people, again, the people in your business, as well as your customers. And you take a really good amount of pride in that. And I think that's really amazing. So how do you think, like, how can, and maybe this can relate to like what you do personally and what Life's Abundance does as a company, but what do you think people can do in their roles as leaders in businesses to be more empathetic, show more empathy, and or be more compassionate versus, leading in a, with a iron fist type of leading?
Yeah, well, that's a really good point. Some of it is definitely personal style.
Right.
So one of another thing that we talk about a lot at Life's Abundance is being a company of learners, right? So if you don't feel like your level of leadership or empathy for your team is where it should be a curious person, be a learner. If you're willing to learn about better styles or different techniques, then you can get there. In terms of what we've been doing internally, it really truly is part of our culture: empathy and compassion and looking out for one another. Um, it's so ingrained, and part of the reason for that is that we are a purpose-driven company. And what that means is that we have a purpose, a stated purpose for our company that we all abide by. It goes into every decision we make. And it's the purpose statement is to empower people and pets to live happier, healthier lives. And that people component includes employees, it includes customers, it includes people who enjoy or represent our products. And if you come from a place of purpose, it liberates you to explore new things, new ideas, have those conversations, and extend compassion because it's supported by the whole reason you're doing what you're doing at your company, at your business, or maybe it's a personal purpose statement.
Yeah, I
That,
love it. Like you come together and your purpose as a whole.
yes.
Yeah. And I think what you just said about also, learning, if that's when you said that, I was thinking also about, I think sometimes leaders, tell people what they want them to do or accomplish or their goals. And I think like, I know one thing I always try to do with the people on my team is say, if I'm teaching you how to do something, or I'm asking you to do something, or, tell me, like, if you disagree, always, tell me, like you're the expert in that area that you're working on. This is your role and your job, and you own that. I might have an opinion, but that doesn't mean I'm right. And I might not always agree with what you want to do, and that's okay. But I always want people to feel empowered to use their voice and disagree. So I say, like, disagree, feel empowered to tell me, no, Keri, we shouldn't do it that way. I think we should do this. I'm like, just like have it. I just think it's so important for people to, one, not be fearful of doing that. And I think when you're compassionate and when you're empathetic, you set a tone where people aren't afraid to do that. They're not afraid to use their voice, right? Because you're empowering them by just having the right vibe, right? And then if you set that tone, you're also learning yourself, because you might, I know sometimes I'm like, I may have asked for something, but maybe I'm wrong there. Maybe that's not the right way to do this. And you have to be open-minded enough, and I think self-aware enough and humble enough to know that even if you're the one in position of power, you're not necessarily always right. And you've hired people, and there are people in your organization that are working with you because you've hired them to do a great job at what they're supposed to do, right? So there's a time to teach and there's a time to learn from people. But I think a lot of it is really, again, making them feel empowered to use their voice. And a lot of that comes from, I think, setting a compassionate tone in the, in your environment, in your organization. Because I think and I know, I mean, I think there's research on this too, like when people view leaders as more compassionate, they're more likely to take risk. And ultimately, your organization is going to be better when people are taking risks and going for it, and they're going to work harder. And also, as a human being, you should want people to take risks and grow and learn and want to do well, right?
Yeah, for sure. You know what? You nailed it. And I think another thing to think about with the compassion, maybe sometimes people in business, why a compassionate place is a little harder to get to is because there's a level of vulnerability with that,
Yeah,
right? Because traditional business structures haven't really allowed for vulnerability. But now, if you think about the moment we're in with a pandemic, it's a horrible thing, but it is a shared experience. And we've all together experienced the ups and downs and the wondering. We have a shared um, vulnerability or set
right.
of vulnerabilities. So this is a really unique time to branch out of your comfort zone and maybe
Yeah,
use this moment as a way to express a little bit more of your self, your true self to your staff without, you don't have to share details of your life, but to open that conversation in a way maybe it hasn't been opened before. And that will help uncover the needs and the capabilities and the ideas that are bubbling under the surface of your team. And that will make your business better.
100%. And you'll make your business better, and people will be happier and feel more fulfilled. And I mean, that should obviously be the most important thing, is that the people in your right the people around you are feeling good and they're feeling fulfilled. And like you said, I think a byproduct of that will benefit the business as well, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And they also, I think there's also research that does show, like, all like, I don't know if it's directly related to being vulnerable, but when you're vulnerable, like you were just mentioning, with your, with coworkers, let's say, and you're you're sharing, and again, it's not necessarily even personal details of your lives, but when you have better connections, when you're vulnerable, you'll have better connections. When you have better connections with your coworkers, I know that that has been linked to being happier and more fulfilled, and then also better productivity and doing better at work. So it really all goes together. I mean, one of the pillars of a nutritious life that we talk about is we talk about love more, right? As one of our pillars. We have the eat empowered pillar and the stress less pillar. I know you're familiar with our eat empowered and pillar. We've talked a lot about food together, but our love more pillar is about community connection. And it doesn't have to just be, a love, a relationship, with a partner. It can be human connectedness, with your colleagues, with people in your community. And I think that that's a really important part of this conversation, just because I think when a company as a whole is more empathetic and more compassionate, I think the people in that organization are going to be more likely to be vulnerable, as you just mentioned, and connect.
Yes, that is true. And we've had to be really mindful about making those connections, being that we're so physically
Yeah.
distant from one another. And there have been some really interesting things that have happened as a result for life's abundance. So I mentioned we take culture is important to us,
Yeah.
but part of that is having fun. So during the course of this, we've had a Life's Abundance community theater skit. A
Oh my,
team went out and did that live for everybody. Today was pajama day.
that's so funny. It's like, by the way, again, it's like my kids' school. They have like their pajama day. They're going to say, that's so funny. I love it. Okay.
It's great. It's great. And you know what? Having those little moments of fun go a really long way to break down barriers
Yeah,
and
I
start
agree.
those conversations. We also, just on the practical level, it's been very helpful. We have a morning meeting every weekday morning, 15 minutes, super quick. The whole company joins just to see each other across departments and make that connection. Sometimes there's agenda, sometimes there's a guest speaker, sometimes it's just a prompt for some kind of discussion to open up. But that has been tremendous, and it's a great way to use 15 minutes of time to keep a team cohesive.
Yeah, that's a really amazing tip, I think, for people, especially people that are perhaps in a smaller organization and they're leading a smaller team. They might think, everybody's so busy, no one has time for for those kind of more fun activities, and or the leader themselves is so busy, right? Because maybe they don't have a big team, and so they're not taking the time to think about doing those things. But I think those little things are really the big things. Those little things that help people connect like that are, like I just said, they're the big things that, and there's a really big snowball effect to that, I think, in a good way, a good snowball effect there. And I think that's really, that's important. So I think that is a good point to bring up again, with, like I said, for people that also might, maybe they're, leading a small team and they haven't thought about doing things like that. Those things definitely go far.
They do. And, it's not always intuitive because so often
Right.
we're very task oriented, but
Yes.
you're so right. It will have the payoff. Bring mindfulness into those interactions, and it does pay off. I mean, really, how many times do you ever see, like you were saying earlier, there are job satisfaction polls. Why do we care about job satisfaction? Well, because we care about people,
Right.
but yes, it does. It leads to professional growth, personal growth, business development. It leads to all those good things. And you as a leader are in just the best position to support all of that goodness.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love that. I love that tip too. That's really good. All right. It's so nice chatting with you like this. This is fun. We don't always get to have these conversations. We do. We talk about tasks. We don't get to always talk about this. So this is super fun to talk to you about all of this. We were just talking a little bit about that love more pillar and connection and community within your organization. Erin, tell us where people can check out Life's Abundance and learn more about your company.
Abundance. Best place to find us is lifesabundance.com.
Amazing. This was so fun chatting with you. Okay, so any last words of wisdom about empathy or compassion in the workplace as a leader?
Best words of wisdom. Well, I appreciate this
I'm
conversation.
putting you on the spot there.
Yeah, you are, but you know what? Here's the thing with me on this topic. I'm super passionate about it because I've experienced it. So I'm just going to say this. It makes all the difference. I have my professional background. I've got Fortune 500. I've got national nonprofit. I've got local nonprofit. I've got small but mighty private company. It makes a difference. Leading from a place of empathy, it is, I thought it was a unicorn, Keri, but it really, your culture and your people will benefit, and so will your business.
Amazing. I love that. Perfect way to wrap this up. Well, thank you so much for chatting with me today. I look forward to seeing you and talking with you soon.
Thanks, Keri.
Thanks.